Hello, I'm Mimi. I'm a digital illustrator running my own small art business, and today I'm going to share my journey with you about how I built this business from scratch, and hopefully it'll give you some insight or inspiration into how you might be able to do the same thing. I've gone from drawing pencil sketches in my sketchbook to being a published picture book illustrator with a regular income in a little over 2 years, and I want to lay out what that path looked like for me to show you that it can be done, but also to be realistic about how long these things can take and how much work is involved. I am not an overnight success story. There are no get-rich-quick tips on my journey. I'm just an Australian girl making a career for myself as an artist slowly and organically. Something that has helped me a lot in building my business has been being realistic about how long things can take and giving myself enough time to do this properly. In May 2020, when I started taking my art seriously, I decided that I would give myself 3 years to dedicate to building an art career as much as I could because I knew it would take time and I needed that realistic expectation from day one, because if I thought it would be quick or I would be there in a year, I'd just be disappointed when it took longer and I would think that I wasn't doing well enough. That's not to say that you can't build an income much faster than I did, because you certainly could, but I was starting pretty much from scratch, so I chose the slow, long-term strategy of sharing my journey and building solid foundations on diverse platforms so that I would have the time to learn the art skills I needed, and so I didn't mind it taking a little while. In a nutshell, I've grown to this point by creating hundreds of illustrations, dozens of videos, and genuinely engaging with my community to provide value to them. I chose the platforms that I wanted to grow on, I treated them like little puppies that needed lots of love and attention, and I committed with everything that I had to offer. Looking back now, my journey so far can be pretty easily broken down into 4 main phases that I think can apply to most people who are starting from scratch. Phase 1. Laying foundations and learning basic skills. Phase 2. Starting to earn money and building a community. Phase 3. Earning the bare minimum to live off so I could go full time. And phase 4, which is where I am now, earning a comfortable, stable income and being able to scale. So let's talk about each of those a bit more. Phase 1. Laying foundations and learning basic skills. This is where I started setting things up, got clear on my main goals, and began learning the skills I needed. When I decided that I was going to take this seriously and give it everything I had to make it work, I started laying out the foundations for what my business would be. I actually have some of my original planning that I did in May 2020 about what I was going to do to get the ball rolling, and right from the beginning I was really clear about what I wanted as the end goal and who I wanted to become throughout this journey. I wanted to become a remote digital illustrator, and along the way I wanted to promote positivity, help people, and maintain my integrity. Understanding what I wanted to achieve before doing anything else is what determined the direction that I was going to go in, because I decided that to help people and promote positivity, I would need to be on social media sharing my journey. And that's why I was posting on Instagram and started a YouTube channel. Something that helped keep me consistent on social media was making sure that my metrics for success weren't about likes or my follower count. Even though I wanted to grow my audience from a business perspective, I focused on developing my art skills and connecting with other artists, because that way, if my account only grew very slowly or not at all, then it wouldn't be so demotivating as long as I was still enjoying developing my skills, and the worst case scenario would be that I would have a nice portfolio of illustrations and some new art friends. I understood though that a lot of the ways I could make an income online would require some kind of audience on social media, so I figured that I should start building an audience as soon as possible to give myself the best chance of growth, even though I didn't feel like my art was good enough to share in the beginning. So this is also when I really started building my art skills. I had a very on and off relationship with my art and struggled to come up with my own ideas or have a style of my own, so I knew that I needed to practice a lot. I figured that a professional illustrator would probably draw every day or thereabouts, so I committed to drawing something every single weekday, even if I only had 15 minutes, even if it was just a sketch. I was going to draw something and post it to Instagram. Doing this every weekday slowly helped me develop a habit of coming up with my own ideas, and I actively looked for inspiration in the things around me. And when I was stuck, I joined an art challenge or found a prompt list to help. During this whole phase, I wasn't earning any money from my art. I was focused on developing my skills by practicing every day and beginning to build a presence on social media. After doing this for about 7 months alongside working part-time as a freelance graphic designer, I naturally fell into the next phase. Phase 2, starting to earn money and building a community. This is where I started to earn some money, built some products and services to sell, and focused on building a community online. So after sharing my art on Instagram for about 7 months, I started to get the occasional DM asking whether I illustrated commissions. So I realized that it must be time to start charging for custom illustrations. I started illustrating simple portraits for people and earning a bit of money doing that, but also knew that I needed some other sources of income, so I also started my Patreon. I wanted to share what I had learned with other artists, so I was setting up my Patreon and YouTube to be places where I shared information about illustrating, and my Instagram was a place purely for my art and to get orders for commissions. I wasn't earning enough to live off, but my art income was slowly starting to grow toward allowing me to work full-time on my art. This is also where my social media account started growing quite quickly, because after posting consistently 5 days a week for 7 months, my Instagram account started reaching a lot more people, and I started posting more developed videos on my YouTube channel, which grew my community there as well. Throughout this phase, I was really trying to set up some ways that I could earn a little bit of money that could grow as my community grew, like Patreon and YouTube that in the beginning don't earn a whole lot, but as more people enjoy what I'm creating, the more my income should increase. I kept on posting to Instagram consistently to grow my audience there, kept creating YouTube videos to build a community, and kept developing my Patreon. It was a lot of work to keep all those plates spinning, especially when I wasn't earning very much money from them at the time. But while those were growing, I also created custom commissions because those paid up front, so that I had some income streams that would grow with my audience and an income stream that wouldn't scale but did pay me up front. After a little while, this brought me to the next phase of my business. Phase 3, earning the bare minimum to live off so I could go full-time. This is where I started earning enough from my business to pay all of my living expenses and could commit full-time. Although I was lucky enough to be nearly full-time on my business during phase 2, even though I wasn't earning much from it, about 16 months after starting from scratch, I was consistently earning about enough money to pay all my bills. I was earning less than minimum wage, but living simply in the countryside kept my bills low, and I could afford to pay my living expenses on my art income alone, which was a big milestone for me and meant that I could work on my art business full-time without having to take on any side jobs. As my community grew across Instagram and YouTube, that meant that my Patreon was also growing and my monthly earnings from that increased. Plus my YouTube channel was now monetized and started earning some sponsorship money, and I started illustrating my first picture book. This is where the snowball of everything I had created up until this point could really get running, and slowly but surely my income was increasing if I just kept adding more videos, more Instagram illustrations, and more Patreon benefits. I probably spent most of my time continuing to grow my existing platforms, and then occasionally would spend a week or so setting up something new like my Etsy shop that once set up was completely passive income. I was really happy to be paying my bills with my art income, and it gave me the freedom and confidence to spend as much time as I wanted on building it even more to bring me to the next phase. Phase 4, earning a comfortable, stable income and being able to scale. This is where I am right now, and it's where I'm now earning a reliable income that's consistently above minimum wage, which means that I can also invest money back into my business to scale it. It's such a relief to be earning a reliable income now, and I don't really mind at all that it took me a little over 2 years to get to that point because I had a lot that I wanted to learn and skills that I needed to develop along the way. I still have a lot that I want to learn and create, and in this phase, I'll be able to continue scaling my business and growing my community even more to reach more people. I'm able to reinvest some of my income back into the business to upgrade my tools, improve my marketing, and maybe even outsource some work. Everything that I create now is building on everything that I've already done, so my library of resources and products will only continue to grow. I've just started working on a proper course for getting started with digital art, and in the future I'd like to also make a course about different ways to grow an income from your art. So that's where I am right now and the different phases of my business so far, but what was my business strategy behind all this? I wouldn't consider myself a business savvy person, but I have managed to find a simple business strategy that works for me. It's not optimized for earning as much as possible, but I do find it fulfilling and sustainable, and that's the most important thing to me, so I'm happy with how it's going. So there are two main ways that I earn money, from selling my time as an illustrator and from sharing what I know about being an illustrator. Selling my time as an illustrator pays mostly upfront, but the income doesn't necessarily scale with my audience size because it requires my direct time to complete the task that I'm paid for. Sharing what I know about being an illustrator doesn't pay very much when my audience is small, but is scalable income that in theory should increase as my audience and community increases in size, so it's uncapped. There's a trade-off with both types of income, which is why I like having both. So I have an active earned source of income, which is a direct transaction of my time illustrating for money. And I'm not sure if I can call the other one passive income because it requires so much work, but I suppose it could be because a lot of it would continue now if I stopped working. But let's call that scalable income. The more people that know about the products and services that I offer, the more my business can grow. So that's where my presence on YouTube, Instagram, and my website help generate traffic to feed into those two options. The basic strategy is that I create content to share for free on Instagram, YouTube, and sometimes my blog, and that brings more traffic to my paid services and products like Patreon and my Etsy shop. This is called content marketing, and I really like it because it gives me the opportunity to share some information for free so that it's accessible to everyone, and then for those who want more, they can access that for a fee. An important part of my strategy is to have diverse income sources so that I'm not reliant on one. Because if I focus completely on one thing and for some reason that collapses or an algorithm changes, then that puts a lot of my income at risk. Instead, I very slowly built up several income streams so that I have more protection. And so, as you'll know if you've seen my latest income report video, quite a lot of my income is split between my online shops, Patreon, commissions, and YouTube. I kind of have a web of platforms that are all connected, all offer something different, and can feed into each other. I like to be quite clear about what the purpose of each platform is for me, both creatively and for the business, so that I can understand why I'm spending my time on it and what I'm sharing there. Instagram is where I share art just for fun and for my creative development, and it's where I can engage with people in the art community, but it also acts as a portfolio of my art and directs people to my other platforms and services. So Instagram is where I share the outcome of my art, meaning the art itself. YouTube is where I share a behind-the-scenes insight into my life as a digital illustrator, how my business is going, and give tips to other creatives who might want to follow a similar path. So YouTube is where I share the progress of my art and business. Patreon is where I share what I know about how to draw, a bit about how to run an art business, and what I'm working on creatively. So Patreon is where I share the process of my art. Those are my three main platforms, and they all have a different purpose centered around the value I can provide as an artist. And then I have places like my website that kind of act like a central station hub to direct people where they might like to go, and eventually I would like for it to be a one-stop shop for beginner artists where they can find all sorts of tools and resources to suit all budgets and skill levels. So I'd love to know, where are you in your own art business journey if that's something you're working on? That pretty much covers the basics of how I built my art business from scratch and how it's structured. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already for more art business videos. Also, if you'd like access to my drawing tutorials and monthly illustration club, then consider joining my community over on Patreon, where I share lots of goodies every month, and you can even browse the main articles and videos that are available before you join via the Patreon page on my website. I'll leave the links in the description below. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!